Okay, we're now live. Welcome to Builder Buy. My name is Gil Boyd. Jerry Lee's got an announcement he's going to make for us. Let's switch over to that camera if you would.
You got me?
Got you.
All right. With all of us older people, we all are subject to getting shingles. I just got a note from my doctor a couple of days ago that I should come in right away for an update. In the past, I've been getting Zostavax, Z-O-S-T-A-V-A-X. That's been the immunization against shingles. The new one, which passed all of its tests apparently with high marks, the name of it is Shingrix, S-H-I-N-G-R-I-X. And my doctor says, get in here, let's get it going right away. And it's a 2-shot series to be given 2 to 6 months apart. But nobody in here wants to get shingles, so it would be wise to chat with your doctor about getting this newer immunization against shingles. That's it.
Jerry, for sharing that with us. We've got an application that we're going to look at that Ben has told me about that's kind of neat. Anybody that's interested in NASA and all that kind of stuff, Clifford has usually kept up with that stuff with us. So Ben's going to come back up here, and this is from eyes.nasa.gov, and I'll fix the link up to it later after this is streamed. Let's put the camera over there on computer one. Computer one. Let's go to Ben's laptop. There we go. Thank you.
This is a free app down from NASA. It's eyes, E-Y-E-S .nasa.gov. It's a free app. When you download it, it puts it into your download. You have to go into your download folder to install it. When you install it, it automatically puts a small icon on your screen.
Thank you.
And this is what you get. There's 3 main items here. It says eyes on the Earth, eyes on the solar system, and eyes on the exoplanets. And down at the bottom, you can go to a couple of different planets and see what's going on. On this one here is just start eyes on the Earth. Here's what you get. And this is all the junk that's circling the Earth right now.
Wow.
It has their names. And up here on the upper right-hand corner, it tells you about the latest events. And if you put your cursor on the globe and draw it, you can spin the globe and get a different perspective of it. So it's just a little bit of information of what's circling the Earth, the different satellites that are going around.
That's a train wreck waiting to happen.
Yeah, right. Now, I don't know how to use this thing. I'm only just learning, and there's a lot to it. Here's visible Earth. There's visible Earth taken from the International Space Station. This is, by the way, this is live. This is going on right now. This is not a film or anything. This is what's going on right now. Here's global temperatures. If you want to see global temperatures, here's global temperatures, and on the left it tells you a little bit about it. But of course, all the red is the extreme temperatures, and all the light is the colder temperatures. This one here will show you the carbon dioxide on North America. This one here will show you the carbon monoxide in the atmosphere, and on the left it tells you about the CO2.
How'd you find this?
I was watching on TV. I was watching the NASA channel.
Ah.
And a speaker got up to talk to a group of people, And he mentioned this eyes.nasa.gov. So I wrote it down and I went on, and this is what it is. It's it has a lot of information.
And we're seeing this in real time on your laptop, and you have a wireless connection.
A wireless connection, correct. Here's the soil. This is the soil moisture of the Earth.
Wow.
Tells you. You can see in North America on the East Coast. That's where they're getting all the rain, and have been for a while. So it's, the ground is very, very wet. And if you go down to South America, all the blue, you can see how much. That'll be all the rainforest. As you go, if you spin it around here, you get into Africa and the different other countries. Look at Europe and Russia. They're pretty dry right now. So it's something to play with.
That's amazing.
EYES.nasa.gov.
Once more?
If we bring it up on computer too, I've got the website up here. Eyes, NASA's eyes, eyes.nasa.gov.
Eyes.nasa.
Eyes plural. EYES. From the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, California Institute of Technology. Experience Earth and our solar system, the universe, and the spacecraft exploring them with immersive apps for Mac, PC, and mobile devices. Download the app to get started. Click on that link and away you go. That's impressive. You look at Europe there. Can we get a mic over there on Robert? Robert? Thanks, guys.
That last one you were looking at, if you look at Europe, it's really got a privileged spot because nothing else is anything like that. Can you go back to the rainfall?
Takes a minute to load.
I suspect that has to do with what we call the Gulf Current. They probably call it something different over there, but as I understand it, it heads north past the U.S. and goes up to where it gets chilled, but then it comes back down, going down, that's close enough, southward on the west side of Europe. So it goes right by England and Portugal and all that. And it's colder because it's come from the north, but it's warmer than the rest of the ocean. So some of the heat that the equator and our region of the world puts into the Gulf Stream as it goes north and curls back around is why England and such are as temperate as they are. And you look at that thing, scroll around another 1/4 so we can see Europe again. Okay, right there. Now just look at the yellow, which is dry, no rain. And essentially the whole top of the world there is that except for Europe. And I guess whatever's the center there, maybe that's Asia. So something is causing moisture right there that just doesn't go south. So all of Africa is dry, the top half of it anyway.
It's interesting to look at.
That's really weird to see the line that's drawn, how abrupt that line is. It's weird.
It's pretty interesting to look at.
And then it continues, on to the west side of America, I guess, or whatever comes up there. Well, anyway, it just struck me as weird.
The satellite thing's pretty fascinating. What else does it show?
Gil,
Yes.
The program is also available on iOS and Android phones, and I'm running it now on my iPhone.
Good to know.
Okay, I'm going to go to the next one, which says the eyes of the solar system.
Great, use both hands.
Takes a minute to load. NASA's eyes. It's an interesting view.
This is, there we are. Now you can do all kinds of things with this. Whoop, there you see.
So this is eyes on the solar system, not only Earth, but anything else out there.
Yeah, now you click on one and you get that particular one.
That's amazing.
There you are.
Wow.
And here on the left, you get a little dissertation about what it's all about. Here's the satellite here that's orbiting.
NASA's newest Mars mission.
And here's on the bottom, if you notice, is real time. You see the times. This is 2014, so it's gone back 4 years. Now, with this, you do the same thing. You put your cursor on and you scroll across the screen, and it'll move the planet.
So what you're doing is you click and drag.
Click and drag.
Interesting. How long have you known about this?
About a month.
Keeping secrets.
No, I thought I would learn how to use it before I came up here, but I've been trying and I still don't know how to use it.
Oh, it's like anything, it's a learning process.
Here's what they call an advanced mode of the same thing.
There's a lot to it.
You've got destinations, date and time. You can change the date and time if you want to. It's got the speed rate here.
From the Earth view from NASA, how close can you zoom in on Earth? Any idea?
I don't know.
So you're just scrolling, you
Yeah.
click and drag.
You can take all kinds of views of this. You just drag it around.
It does not scale properly in 4K. You would think NASA would be more up to date.
Doesn't scale in 4K, I'm surprised.
Now here's different planets on the right here.
Loading. It's pretty responsive on a laptop and loads pretty quick.
Yeah, it's wireless.
Yeah, I'm impressed. It has pretty good performance. How old is your laptop now? 2 years?
Oh no.
4 years?
Oh, at least 4.
Okay.
Here's Cassini.
And it's doing all that on its own?
All on its own. I'm not doing anything.
Interesting.
See, the antenna is supposed to be pointed toward the Earth so we can get the information back. We're exploring Cassini. This is April 11th, October 11th, 2005. So that's when that satellite was at Cassini.
The graphics look really good.
We're back.
Remember that song you sang about the flying?
This on the right up gives you the distance to Earth.
And it's doing that on its own.
Do it on its own, yep.
So it's following that timeline.
It's following this one here. This is the trip from the to Cassini, the satellite trip to Cassini. When it comes around, you'll see it better. See, it left the Earth, and that's the journey it's taken.
Takes a lot of patience when they set one of those in motion to see fruition, to see it come to fruition. I was in hopes Tommy and Vicky was going to be here today so we could talk a little bit about their laptop options, but doesn't look like they made it. The road down here that's blocked off, I want to thank, I believe it was Sally that sent that to us. She's not here today either, but she sent us information about the road blockage down here at Memorial and Green Bay. Unfortunate. So I hope everybody got that message and found a way around.
How long is that for?
I'm not real sure. From what I gathered, it's going to be a month. And I'm not sure where she got the information from, but I sure did appreciate her sharing it with us. And I shared it with you guys as soon as I knew about it. I know they've been working at the other end of Green Bay down here at Taylor Crest, but I was surprised this end. But it's been needing doing for a long time. I believe it's sewer they're replacing. Well, we're going to talk about some laptops here in a couple of minutes. Some new laptops have also been announced. Have you guys seen the stuff on that? Jim Fallon sent that, and all of a sudden after he sent it, a whole bunch more started coming through about it. Now, the first one I've seen, what we're going to have is a laptop. Instead of 4 cores, 8 threads, it'll be 6 cores, 12 threads. And possibly an i9, but more likely an i7. And the first one I've seen announced is from Dell, talking about redoing the XPS 15. So I think that's going to be pretty exciting. The question is now, what's it going to cost? I'm hoping we're not talking a whole lot more money, because you can still buy laptops now that have 2 cores as opposed to 4 cores. And I can see how people get taken in by the price when they don't realize shop specs. My deal always with a computer is shop the specs first. And I'll give you an example of that. We're going to go to Costco and take a look at a couple of different laptops. And if we get to it, I hope we're going to do an unboxing and setup. Now, I've got another thing I want to solve. We talked about last week. I have a theory on what I think is going on. I read some documentation. I'll share with you what I know, but I don't know enough to say I have a solution. It's a time-sensitive solution with Windows when Windows is first installed. After that, there's a service that gets uninstalled after 15 days. Oh, by the way, they don't bother to tell us about it.
Here's this. I've reached on where you get instructions on how to run this program.
You could spend a lot of time getting lost in that.
Yeah, you're right. Here's telescopic view. Back to here. how to get rid of it. Visual controls. Here's a list of things that you can do.
You can turn off or on those particular items.
Yep.
Nice.
When you have the planets up and they're rotating, you can adjust the speed. If you want to slow down the speed, just so you can follow it more closely, you can slow down the speed of the satellites. Well, I don't know how to exit this, guys. Voyager. There's one.
Y'all remember that problem we were having with BitDefender coming up on the screen whenever you try to shut down your computer or reboot Windows? Y'all remember seeing that BitDefender? John Lum had that for quite a while. I had a laptop started doing that. I finally figured out how to do it. It's pretty simple. I don't understand why it happens, and it doesn't happen all the time. But I'll tell you how to solve it in a couple of minutes.
There's the cameras on the satellite Voyager 1 that has left the Earth at orbit. Here is 1977. I have up here. You can see the two satellites that they launched in '77, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. And it shows you the path that it's taking. Now, if you want to set the time now, it'll really show you where you are. So. Real time.
Voyager's Grand Tour.
So anyway, that's what you can do with that little app. It's free. You can put it on your mobile devices also. Download it onto your mobile devices.
Just like Dwayne mentioned, he's got it running on his smartphone. Now, how close can you zoom in on the Earth?
This is all I'm doing. It's on its own.
Oh, it's doing it on its own. You just click on it, away it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're able to replay the event and then go to the next event.
Yeah. And you just drag and drop, and you lose yourself.
Big time.
What's the black one? Oh, that's got white on it.
Wow.
Mostly black.
He just does it on its own. The Earth is way down here.
Yes, Earth, then the orbital path of the moon. That's interesting.
Fat cats.
So your view options are near Voyager 1, above Earth. You can replay the event, go to the next event.
Yeah.
And this is from September the 5th 1977.
That's when it was launched.
Wow. Voyager 1 launches from Cape Canaveral aboard a Titan Centaur rocket. And then back to the Grand Tour. Eyes on Voyager. That's fascinating. I was concerned we were going to have difficulty hooking this up to see this on the switch, because last time we did this with Ben's laptop, we had a flicker. And I thought we were having an HDMI handshake issue, like when we had Mr. Gonzalez. Ralph's laptop, I think, had a handshake issue. I wasn't sure if it was something with HDMI. That's where I think it was. And I think what it was an HDCP issue, but I'm not 100%. Anyway, I'm ready to deal with HDCP next time.
That's all I have on that.
Thanks for showing that. I appreciate that. That's pretty neat. Okay, the program that I mentioned, BitDefender, y'all know what installs that? You get that comment up there, BitDefender's got a problem? You know where that's coming from? Spybot Search and Destroy. Yeah, that's what I thought. Aha. It was one of those aha moments. Now, what I have read about why this does this is because it's the antivirus part that gets installed that's not fully installed. It's not there. So, you know, we say go to Night and download this and run it and everything's good to go. I've never had the problem until I put it on this laptop. So what you have to do is uninstall it, and if you've done any inoculations, you have to undo those as well. But you uninstall it, and then you go back and you do a custom install. And the custom install, you do not install that part of it, the antivirus. Let me pull it up here on this computer. I've got an email that I can show you what it looks like. Okay, if you're using the free edition, you uninstall and reinstall, but you want to do a custom install. And you have to delete these folders, whether it's the 32-bit or the 64-bit. Then you have to find, this is a hidden folder you have to find. You know, like the percent app data percent? Well, this is percent program data percent. So you have to delete all that stuff. And then you do a custom install. And when you do the custom install, you untick the box beside files necessary for antivirus scanning. Thanks, Ben, for showing that application. That was neat. Now, guys, if any of y'all ever have something y'all want to show for us to talk about and look at, let me know. Let's do it. Because, you know, that's how we learn. I can remember back when we had the Saturn V, had the models, watched all that, land on the moon. I thought that was so cool. And it seems like we've gotten away from that. The U.S. has always been about being on the forefront of technology. So having an application like that kind of puts us back in touch with our roots. Yes, Robert?
I just got a question for this group. It's not a very large group now, but is anybody still interested in fractals?
Fractals?
Yeah.
We got quite a bit of interest in that online.
Well, I was going through some junk and I found 6 or 8 links to various fractal zooms. And what you do with a fractal, if you like them, is to zoom into them, because that's where the action is. And I can bring that sometime, because I know when I was talking about the stuff I do, the question of fractals came up. So if this group's still interested in fractals, then I can bring that. We can spend 5 or 10 minutes looking at fractals.
Anybody like to see that? Okay. Let's do that sometime. Okay, so we've looked at the eyes.nasa.gov, and I want to thank Jerry Lee also for the information about shingles. Joe is not here. He was going to be here, but he's at the doctor's office today because Joe's got the shingles. Yeah, on top of everything else he's got, so please keep Joe in your prayers. I hope we'll see him next week, but with him having the shingles, I don't know. Everybody I've ever talked to talks about how painful that is. So we'll look forward to seeing him when he gets himself up a little bit stronger. But keep him in your prayers. Lou's gone right now, so the message I send out will be just to the few that I talk to, which are you guys here, and I'll always ask you to share that with everybody else, because Lou sends out the broadcast. She's out right now. She's out of town. She's gone to go visit family from Florida up the country to Wisconsin, so we're not going to see her for a couple of weeks. And I want to thank you, Jerry Lee, for that information. Everybody needs to know about that. So now we've solved this problem with BitDefender, which is from Spybot Search and Destroy. Why some have a problem with it and others don't, I don't know. Now, the other issue we had last week was with the networking issue. I had read some documentation about that. Oh, Microsoft? No. Well, I tell you, they can really be sneaky when they're trying to update one of your computers and you don't want it to happen. Anyway, we had an issue with networking last week, and I've got some documentation I can share with you. Yes, Jerry?
I just remembered Diana ordered a Microsoft Slate computer yesterday.
Shorted what?
A Microsoft Slate, S-L-A-T-E.
Yes, he did.
A Microsoft Slate?
Yeah, it's a notebook computer.
Why did she buy a Microsoft?
I have no, well, she didn't buy it from Microsoft. She ordered it from somebody, probably Newegg. But I don't know anything at all about that one.
Why did she go for one of those?
Well, somebody at her office has one. And she said, oh, I like that and this and that. So anyway, she ordered one. When it comes in, I'm going to bring it over here and we can pick it apart and look at it and play with it and so on. And then I'll take it back and let her do whatever she wants to with it.
That's
But-
interesting.
But we'll get to open the box and look at it.
Good. An unboxing and setup would be great. I know everybody would be interested to see it. I'm just curious why she did it. That's,
She didn't ask me.
yeah. Interesting. But we'll find out. Okay, I've got a laptop here we're going to take it. It's a Lenovo, and I've been calling that Lenovo. I don't know why I got that. But Sally pointed it out to me, and I think it was from the video when we did the Lenovo yoga that Jim Fallon has. And when we streamed that, I had to pull that video down because we had a lot of shenanigans going on. So I think that's where I got confused on that. So Lenovo, I appreciate everybody reminding me about that. What I'm going to do is, if we've got enough time, I want to do an unboxing and setup, and I want to do a network setup, because some information I came across, I don't have all the details yet, but Microsoft has made some changes to the way networking is done and the way we've networked in the past. I don't see anything. Why change? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But to go in and browse the network neighborhood, they want you to do shares. And used to, when you'd set a share on a computer, if that share wasn't there, that program, that computer would just literally lock it up because it kept polling, looking, waiting for that share to appear. And that would just freak a computer out. So I quit doing that a long time ago, but this goes way, way back. So when I wanted to go on to share, I'd browse the network and do it. There is a service that Microsoft has deprecated for a newer version, but the old version, there's a client and a server part to this service. The client part of that service is installed and stays there for 15 days on a clean install of Windows. After 15 days, if it's not used, it's automatically uninstalled. Yeah, that's what I thought. I've got some documentation. I can show you what I've read. I don't fully get it because I've done a comparison and I've looked for this service, and I've got computers that this works on that service is not there. But those computers, I immediately did the networking. So I want to find out if I immediately network this computer, if it's going to do its job. For example, on this laptop, this HP NV17T, I can see the other computers and the other computers can see this laptop. But if I look at this laptop in the network neighborhood, it doesn't see itself unless I go in and create another share and call it, instead of public, call it something else. Then it'll show up in the list. To me, that's odd. And I haven't had it on any other computers, but I always network immediately. I was saving networking on his computer to do something different, something separate, something special, because we've got a couple of videos up about a printer, and I wanted to do the third step about the scanner on that network printer, because that's a 3-step process and it's involved, and I wanted to share that. So I want to see if we can do this on this laptop. Now, I'm sorry Tommy and Vicki aren't here because, well, first of all, let's get to the new stuff. We may be building an i9 next week. Ray's not here, but I've been going through the parts for what he wants to do. And long story short, saw him Saturday, tested his video card, it was good, gave him a power supply to try on his computer. He's getting an error on his motherboard that is, what did he tell me? PCI overvoltage, or PCI Express, overvoltage on PCI Express. So he pulled the video card out of slot 1, pulled it in slot 2, it's been working. Now he's getting that same error message. So I gave him a power supply to try, and he said, because of the way the cooler and everything's in there, it's too much trouble to get it out. So he's going to build a new computer. I said, love it. Now, what he's getting ready to build is going to be old as soon as we get it built. But I'm looking forward to building it because it's going to be an i9, fast as you can get. It's going to be an Asus motherboard, which I think he's getting the right board. It's going to be the X299 chipset. And he changed one thing on it was the RAM. He's using G-Skill. I've never used the G-Skill, but a lot of people are. I said as long as it's on Asus's QVL, which is kind of hard to find, then you'll be good to go. I can bring up the list tentatively and show you, but I don't have anything up here yet because of some of the changes he made. But I know the motherboard, I know the processor, I know the case. We changed that. We looked at several cases while he was over at the house. What else did he change? We can take a look at that list of components. But I want to get into this laptop, and the first thing I'm going to do is go to Costco and take a look. It's always my favorite place. If I'm going to go look at a laptop, I'm always concerned about the return policy. And you can't beat the return policy at Costco. Now, there are several people that are interested in some laptops. Several people also are interested in building a computer. I myself am going to be building a Threadripper, and I got several people online that are eager to see how that's going to go. We've talked about a case, we've talked about a motherboard, and they want to know how that performs. So when we get this machine of Ray's built, I want us to do an interrogation, find out what all's in it, inventory it, document it, and then I want us to run a couple of those tests, and then we'll put those tests up so people will know if they build this kind of configuration, what's Cinebench going to show, what's SpecView Perf going to show, and there's a new version of SpecView Perf out. Okay, we're at Costco, we're going to go to laptops, and remember any of this stuff, you change one thing, changes everything. So we're going to go to Costco, and this time I'm going to look at a 2-in-1. This is just conversation as an example, because remember, all this stuff right now is getting ready to change. I didn't think anything would change until probably May. With the announcements we got from Jim Fallon and everything else that followed suit after that, this stuff is already coming in April. And instead of having 4 cores, 8 threads, again, you're going to have 6 cores, 12 threads. An i9, could be an i7, and the first one that's coming to market, it looks like it's going to be the Dell XPS 15. That'll have an i7 with 6 cores in it, which is pretty amazing. So looking at this, considering even though it's old, things change, we're going to look at see what's available. So I'm going to go with the largest screen I can find in a 2-in-1. There's 5 that have a 15-inch. Now I'm going to go to the processor, and I only am interested in an i7. There's 4. So of these 4, let me back up. When you go to Costco, what you see in the store and what you see online are completely different. And it blows my mind. Usually the best deals are not at the store. For example, this HP Envy 17T was $800. That was not at the store.
How do you get it then?
Go online.
Why? Buy it online for $800. To get this particular laptop configured correctly with all the bells and whistles,
It's Amazon.
on sale is $1,220.
Trump hasn't named it.
But you go from $800 to $1,200, to me that's hard to justify. And that computer not on sale, add $300 to that, which to me puts it out of the price range. Because number one, I say let's look at the specs. Number 2, let's look at the price. Number 3, let's look at the brand. And then when we get into the specs, we're looking at 4 right here, right now. We've got 2 Lenovo's, 1 Asus, and 1 HP. Now, to just cut to the chase, they've all got a 15-inch touchscreen. They've all got, 3 of them have 16 gigs of memory. The one with 8 gigs of memory, I'd kick it loose immediately. As we've already learned, Acer is coming out with some of the Ryzen laptops that only have 8 gigs. Now, only having 8 gigs is not so bad, but if you can't upgrade it, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I think that sucks. So with that said, when you buy a laptop, I want to be able to upgrade it, but I don't want to have to be able to upgrade it. I want to have the option to upgrade it. So if there's only 8 gigs of memory in it, I don't want to have to do the research to find out if I can upgrade it. So I'm kicking that one loose. So now I'm looking at 3 of them. 2 of them are Lenovo, 1 is ASUS. Okay, the next thing I'm going to look at are the drives. The first one has a 1 terabyte and a 256 gig SSD. The second one has a 512 gig SSD, and the third one is a 1 terabyte and 128. Okay, 128 is too stinking small for anything. 256 would be my minimum. So I'd kick that ASUS loose. So I would only be looking at these 2 Lenovos. If you go to the store, you're going to find one of these 2 Lenovos. So then you have to decide, and again, you change one thing, changes everything. Do I need a laptop right now? Or can I wait and order one, let it take a few days? What's more important, the size of the primary drive or the fact that this has a secondary drive? Most people, we're not most people. We do the 2 drive thing, but then you got to configure it to work with that. Do you have that in your system, Jack, 2 drives? Or do you work with 1 drive? 1 drive's easier, but I do 2 drives in the Ryzen machine. I do 2 drives in the streaming computer. I do 2 drives in some of the other computers. It works, but I have to remember that, keep that in my head. On a laptop for most people, yes, Robert? Let's get a mic.
You've mentioned a couple of times some way to set a computer up to work with 2 drives. I'd appreciate it if you'd do that someday, because I'd like to see it.
I'm going to, and I was in hopes to do that with one of the computers that I had recommended for Tommy and Vicky, because I wanted to go through some questions. For example, I think 4K, as Joe had said, is that a benefit or is that a feature? So I'm getting there. If 4K for Nick sucks, that makes it a feature, not a benefit. Well, knowing where Tommy's at, Tommy might have a problem with the 4K display because Nick didn't like it, Tommy might not like it. But yet Vicky's granddaughter may love it. So there's 2 laptops. One would be more appropriate for Vicky's daughter, and the other would be more appropriate for Tommy, strictly because of the 4K. So as we go forward, one of those machines used 2 drives, and that's what I wanted to use, was to show that. Now, when we get through looking at this laptop, probably in May, we'll look at another laptop, and when I do that laptop, it'll have 2 drives, and I'm going to show that. Because there's 3 different ways you can do that, but because of the shenanigans and what Microsoft is doing, you really need to follow their convention and keep it simple. And that's what I'll show when we get to that point. The machine that I have right here only has 1 drive. My intention was to get the machine that had 2 drives so that I could show that sooner rather than later. So I'm going to show it eventually, just not in this machine. What concerns me a lot of times, laptops, as we learn, this HP Envy is an example. There's a lot of different versions of this laptop. Some of them have a 4K display. You buy this direct from HP, it'll be 4K. You buy it from Costco, it doesn't have 4K. It also is neutered. They've taken out the stick of chewing gum slot. There's no M.2 slot on this motherboard. Now, if you buy the one from HP, it's there. $800 versus $1,200. Hard to justify. So I'd like a faster drive. I can put an SSD in there, but I'm still only going to be running 1 drive. We go to this one. Now, is the Lenovo configured the way HP is done? In other words, is this a custom configuration? And what I'm getting at is there is 1 drive in here, but is the socket in there for the other drive? I won't know till we plug it in and interrogate it, and even then I won't know absolutely until I open it and look and see. Because if it can take another drive, I'd stick another drive in there. So we're going to take it as it is and go from that standpoint. Now, is it a keeper? That depends on your perspective. Depends on what you want to do with it. So as I'm looking at these 2, one's $1,200 and one's $1,000. The one that has a 512 gig SSD, in my opinion, that's a machine. It's good to use out of the box, good to go. You don't need to change anything. But we could pull that 512 out and we could put in a 1 terabyte. And by the way, I also have the card from Costco. I asked them if I could borrow this. And this says specifically that that 512 gig is a PCIe SSD, meaning it's an M.2 that is an NVMe drive. So I want to run BellaArch on this, and it'll tell us. So if that's a stick of chewing gum drive that's in there, do we have the second slot? On this other machine where it shows here, 1 terabyte and 256, I don't know if that 256, in other words, I don't know if it's similarly configured as this Lenovo. This one was come out of the store. The $1,200 one has to be ordered. If I had both of them sitting in front of me, I'd probably go for the first one, which is a 1 terabyte and a 256. But it's $1,200. The other two laptops that Tommy and Vicki were looking at that I thought would be appropriate for them, they were also $1,200. But I don't think this would be appropriate for Tommy. Unless weight is an issue. For example, those two laptops, 17-inch screens, 6 pounds. The laptop that Andrew's not here yet either. The laptop that Andrew has, that Nick Streeter has, and that Lou Warren has, the Lenovo Yoga 4K, 4 pounds. So you change one thing, changes everything. So the one I have on me is the $1,000 Lenovo Yoga, the Lenovo Flex that has a 512 gig SSD, and it's also an NVMe. Now what I'm not wild about is if you'll notice the video, this is a 2 gig MX130, whereas the other one has a 2 gig MX940. And I believe the Asus Zen was a GeForce, it was a 4 gig 950. It was either 940 or 950. Now the other two laptops that I've looked at for Tommy and Vicki, one of them had a 6 gig 10, I think it was a 1060 or a 1070 in it, way more than what they need. But I'm just saying, there's no perfect laptop, there's trade-offs. So I'm going to pull this out and we're going to take a look at it. Now this has the i7-8550. It's 4 cores, 8 threads. It's Windows 10 Home. I've got 16 gigs of memory. The processor will support 32. Theoretically, this system should also support 32, but I don't know if it can be. I don't know if it's hardwired. And again, it's got a 512 gig NVMe drive. I mentioned the graphics. This also has a touchscreen. This would be appropriate for someone that considers themselves a digital artist, not just someone filling out forms or someone that goes to school and needs something they can take to class. But I've always been a big fan of Wacom tablets. Why buy a Wacom tablet when you've got a pen that comes with this? Your tablet's ready to go. So we're going to open this up, and what I expect to see is 3 things: a laptop, a power supply, and some documentation. So the seal is still on. We're going to open this up. Little box in the top. We'll open that. That's probably the pen. Yep, the pen's there, if it'll come out. Yep, there it is. There's the pen. Well packaged. On one compartment in the side. There's our power supply. Interesting little wall wart. That'll be easy to work with. This thing is lightweight, 4 pounds. Jim, how much was that Lenovo Yoga? Tiny.
Oh, look.
Now I'm going to remind everybody online that this is real time what you're seeing us do. So it's not like the video we did for the HP Envy where we were able to make a video and record it. And the reason I mention that, some people have asked for us to do a build in real time. So when we do this next week to build this i9, it'll be in real time. Documentation. And it's interesting, this time there's nothing in here from Costco. There was with the other one. So I'll pull the plastic off. Nice little bag. This is very lightweight. Thin. There's so many options and so many laptops. it's interesting to make a choice. And I think the thing that makes this nice, while I was at Costco, there was a lady looking at 3 Lenovo laptops. And of the 3 different prices, I told her, I said, of these 3, I said, I think this one is the best. She said, why? Well, the one she was looking at was $1,500. It weighed less, but I said, does that weight justify $1,500? It was smaller. She wanted it for her son. She said, no. I said, well, I think this is a better deal. The one in the middle was a gaming laptop. It had better video on it, but I don't think it justified the price. It was like $50 more. I didn't think it was worth it, my opinion.
Weighs 3.02 pounds.
3 point what?
3.02. That's the Lenovo Yoga 920.
3.2. Wow, that's lightweight. Okay, we're going to plug it in. And let's see what we got on the front. The back. Okay, on the left side, from where my thumb is at, that's the dual headphone jack. No, that's strictly headphones. A lot of times that's headphone microphone. That's strictly headphone jack. Then we have a USB-C port. Then we have a USB port, which is probably USB 3, HDMI, and then we have our power connection. Nothing on the back. And it's going to breathe through the bottom and breathe out the back. And on the other end, our other ports, it looks like a power button on the side. That looks like a drive light right there. Memory card reader and another USB port, and then that should be Kensington lock. So this has only 2 USB ports, probably both are USB 3. That's curious.
Which model is that again?
This is the Lenovo Flex 5.
Oh. Well, the weight I just gave you was for the Yoga.
Yours was the Yoga.
Yeah, that's right. I misunderstood something.
Well, maybe I misspoke. Thanks for catching me. Now this has a 15-inch screen, so we plug in the power. And I'm going to go ahead and plug in HDMI, so when this comes up, we may be able to see something. I doubt we'll see anything until we get into Windows. And the documentation that comes with it, Lenovo tech support telephone numbers, and the documentation for what's included, the computer, the power supply, optical disc on select models. This does not have an optical drive, lowers the weight, and of course the publications. Talks about the initial setup. Now remember, as we go through this thing is probably going to want to talk to us. I'm going to mute it. Windows is going to try to get us to create an online account. It'll ask us 3 times. I'm going to say no. I am initially not going to plug in the network, although it's going to try to create a wireless connection, because I don't want the thing trying to update while I'm trying to get Windows installed. Then I will create a hardwired connection, bring up the network, do the shares. So I'm going to keep this handy. I may not have the luxury of a wired connection. I don't. I sure don't. I don't have the luxury of a wired connection.
How do you turn this automatic update off so it doesn't update automatically?
Windows automatic update?
Yeah.
Well, what you have to do is tell it you're on a metered connection. Tell Windows you're on a metered connection.
How do you do that?
Let me do this.
Okay, no problem.
Because you said you were going to turn it off right there.
Do what?
You just said you were going to stop it from updating.
Well, I'm not going to create a network connection on this computer because I'm doing an installation. As long as I don't have a network connection, it can't update.
Okay.
But to do it on your computer, you need to tell it you've got a metered connection. Metered connection. So we're gonna do what? Oh, that's a good idea. You got one? I've got one in the box. I'll borrow yours. Let me go to this laptop right
Here,
quick.
Jack. Top.
Let's see what do we have here. CMC admin, CMC guest, which is wide open for everybody. Hidden network. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it. Oh, thanks, Robert. Do we need a driver, or does it just, oh, this is the anchor. It'll just load. It'll go. Okay, we're going to go to the network. Let's see. We're going to tell it we have a metered connection. Change Wi-Fi settings. Wi-Fi is on. Hotspot. Connect to a wireless. Where's the metered connection? See, this was not in my vocabulary at the moment. Change Wi-Fi settings, which is where I'm at. Random hardware addresses is off. Wi-Fi services. Does anybody remember where that's at? That's my problem. I don't do it all the time. I know you got to change it to a metered connection, and I was looking at it last night.
Systems and settings, it should be.
System and settings. Network.
Go down. Update and security, about there.
Windows update.
Under Wi-Fi, manage known networks.
Yeah, which is where I was. Network, Wi-Fi, manage known networks.
Select properties and turn on set metered connection.
Okay, I'm not on a Wi-Fi connection, that's why I'm not seeing it. So let's get a mic over there on Jack so he can repeat that. Go to Wi-Fi.
Start, then settings, then network and internet, then Wi-Fi, then manage known networks, then select the Wi-Fi network and select properties, and turn on set as metered connection.
That's why I'm not seeing it, because I'm not wireless.
You have to select your Wi-Fi first, I guess.
Well, I don't have one to manage because I'm not on it. I'm on a wired network. It won't let me set metered for a wired network. So we can take a look at it on this laptop once we get this laptop up. So I'm going to go back over to this, like Ben had it set. We'll power up, button on the right. Even has a fingerprint reader. Interesting. Well, hit the power button, get out the instructions.
So are you looking to turn it on?
Yeah,
Look, there's a little bitty button on the right-hand side, maybe.
yeah, that's the one I pushed. Oh, that got turned off. There we go. So there's no juice in the battery. That's what happens when you get sidetracked. Okay, so this is booting up. And it may not show anything. Here we are. Now it says Lenovo. I see Lenovo here. You'd have to go to camera number 4. At some point it'll show us a screen. There it comes up. You'll come back again, okay? So that was the button on the side, but apparently there's no juice in the battery. So plugging it in, somehow that got turned off. Okay, welcome.
Hi there, I'm Cortana, and I'm here to help. A little sign in here, a touch of Wi-Fi there, and we'll have your PC ready for all you plan to do.
Yeah, dear, we're going to turn you off. Okay, I've muted voice. Okay, enough intro, let's dig in. Okay, United States, we're going to say okay. US, okay. Look at you, Irish. Scottish Gaelic, I'd have difficulty with that. Add a second keyboard, skip. Connect, nope. So over here on the left, we're going to skip for now. Answer the EULA, yep, gotta love her. Don't like EULA, but like we have a choice. Just a minute, now who's going to use this PC? Good question, Tom Thumb. Alrighty, next. I like the tablet on this. Once a password, I'm going to do next. I don't need that right now. Create a super memorable password. There's no way to retrieve a lost password for this account, so make sure to pick something you'll absolutely sure to remember. We're going to leave it like it is. I don't need it. Make Cortana your personal assistant? No. And that is a very sensitive tablet, but I like the feel of it. Now, a lot of these defaults, I can leave this for now. I can change it later. Location is on, diagnostics, full diagnostics, relevant ads. I'll go back and turn that off later. Speech recognition is on. I don't really care about it. I'm going to turn all that stuff off anyway. So I'm going to accept what's here. We just want to get it installed. Okay, protect your device. Wants us to create a profile, so we'll do that. This is part of the registration process. Region, what do we have for an option for region? Wow. Do we have anything under US? Keyboard's nice, it's small. You don't have the extended keyboard on the side, but what's here is really easy to use. Okay, United States. They want an email address. So flip that just a second. I even configured an email address for the printer. I'll show you all about that in another video. Okay, protect your device. Add this device to my Lenovo ID profile using the email address provided. One will be created if you do not already have one. Add this device. Sign up to receive exclusive email offers. I'm okay with that. Lenovo may share my email address with McAfee. I'm okay with that. McAfee also had a problem. I uninstalled it on the HP Envy 17T. It had a problem with the networking, and the way they said to solve it was you go into McAfee, delete that profile for the computer, which is the IP address range, and put it back in there, and that would solve the problem. I said, no, I got an easier problem to solve here. I'll just uninstall McAfee and put Kaspersky on, which I did. Solved part of that. Now, so I'll let McAfee do their thing for now. Help Lenovo improve your device experience by allowing anonymous data collection. I'm okay with all that. Okay, that's the last step. So we're going to do services. Almost done. We just need to get a few more things polished up for you. Windows will be all yours. Just a moment. Okay, it's going to reboot. Hello. And we even see something on HDMI. We're getting everything ready for you. So it's setting up the user profile. I'm really surprised this only has 2 USB ports. You know, each computer, depending on what you're trying to accomplish for a task, some laptops have 3 USB ports, some have more. Some, like Jim Fallon's laptop, his Lenovo Yoga, had the 2 USB ports on the side, the way they're arranged, the way they're grouped. You could put a special type of adapter on there for a port multiplier to get more USB ports from those 2. And the way they're configured, it fits right over those 2, and I think turns around and gives you 4, which is really nice. But this, 1 on each side. So if I plugged in an external mouse, the reason I say this is not a laptop I would use for doing music production because it's limited on its USB ports. We'd be doing something like we looked at a few weeks ago, trying to get as many ports as we could, like either what we did with Jeannie for her desktop or like that thing Jack had when we did the monitor. Some way to multiply those ports. Because if you're doing music production, depending on the libraries and the audio that you're working with, you could have 3 USB dongles, you could have a pro audio interface, and then you might have a keyboard. So there's 5 USB ports. Some of them don't play well or like being hung off of a port replicator. So I would want at least 3 that are directly. But if I can make one of these do what I need, I'd be willing to try it. Okay, so we got it up. It's ready to go. So now that I have the, I'm going to check for the personalization. And I'm going to get my other icons, themes. Okay, desktop icons. And resolution looks good over there. I'm going to pick the computer, the users, the network. Oddly enough, I like the pad on this Lenovo Flex better than the pad that's on the HP Envy. But I like the keyboard. The keyboard on the HP Envy has a light you can turn on. This does not have a light. But it's easy to see because the keys have white print on them. So we're going to say OK. So now we have our icons on the desktop.
There may be a hidden switch or something because when you powered it up, the keyboard lit up.
Yeah.
This keyboard lit up?
Yep.
I was busy looking at other stuff. 48 minutes to a full charge on the battery. There should be an icon here for, let's see, function keys. I'm looking at audio, mute, audio volume, microphone.
Try F10 with the function key.
I hadn't gotten down that far. F10 here looks like displays. Yeah, that's for displays. PC screen, duplicate, extend, second screen. So there's got to be something for that to turn that off and on. Oh, I see it. Let's see. I did it. There's a little little bar with like sunshine on it on the left-hand side of the space bar. So holding down the function key. And this one you have to hold down the function key to get it to work. Or was it the control key? Maybe it was the Alt key. Nope. Flag key. So how do you turn it back off? Function key. There it is. Hold down the function key, press the spacebar key and hold it. Comes back on. Hold down the function key, press the spacebar key, shut it off. Now see, it's easier to do the light function key, and it's, I believe, F6 on the HP Envy. But with this, it's function key, spacebar. Curious. Okay, I'm going to get me a mouse. I can move a little bit better with a mouse. So I'll just pull that mouse off, bring it over for a minute. This touchpad I could get used to. But I'm more used to that. Yeah, that's better. Okay, I'm going to immediately go right to the network. So we've done an unboxing and setup. We got Windows installed. It was pretty quick. I'm going to do the flag E. Now, when I click on network, the wizard is going to show here at the top. And because I don't have a connection, it's not going to work. But I'm going to show you initially. Network discovery is turned off. Network computers and devices are not visible. Please turn on network discovery in Network and Sharing Center. Okay. Now, up here at the top, it said this computer is not connected to a network. Click to connect. That's part of the wizard. I'm going to close that down. We're going to create this wired connection, this port on the other side. And I'm hoping we don't get Microsoft trying to do the updates. I'm going to plug that in, give it just a minute. That's nice. So with this, we get 3 USB ports and a network connection. Very nice. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up the flag, and I believe it's the, let's see, what key is that? That works on a desktop. That is the start, pause, break key. Yeah, that's one of them. Let's see, the start. Well, we'll just do it this way. Display settings. I'm going to back out. I'm going to double check and see what we have here on the system. We're going to go to System, About. And what I want to find out right here, I'll zoom in on that. Okay, this is an 8550, 4 cores, 8 threads, 16 gigs of memory. Shows the device ID product, 64-bit, pen and touch. And what I want to know, Windows 10 Home, that's what I was looking for, 1709. Not bad. So I've got an operating system build and a serial number. Okay.
What did you,
How'd I get to that?
what did you do to get to that?
Okay, from the desktop, I did a right click. I clicked on display settings because it happened to be the first one. I got this up for display. I clicked on home, which I didn't have to. But from this display, down here at the bottom where it says about, click on about.
Thanks.
Microsoft is getting really notorious for changing things for no reason at all. And it's kind of getting a little annoying.
Yes, it is.
And that's, you know, another one of those things. And you watch. As soon as we remember this, they'll change it again and make us go hunt for it. But anyway, what I wanted to find out was the operating system, what I've got. Now what I'm going to do is go up here to the home, and I'm going to go down here to updates. Now I don't have a network connection, but I just want to see if it says anything about updates. No updates available. Okay. I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to create a network connection because I'm going to download BellArc, and then I'm going to do the network setup. So this right here needs to be done. Do you want to allow your PC to be discovered by other devices? we recommend allowing this on home and work networks but not public. I'm going to say yes. Sometimes you miss that, but the time you see that, it disappears before you can interact with it. Very annoying. Another thing I don't want to use is I don't want to use the browser, and I don't want this coming up asking me. So Cortana, you're going to get hidden. And I'm going to do the start. I'm going to do Internet Explorer. There's Internet Explorer. I'm going to bring that up. I'm a little bit particular about this. I do not want to use Cortana. Offering it as an option is one thing. Let's see, google.com. It would help if I spell it correctly. Google.com. I like the feel of the keyboard. And I need to mute that. Function key mute. Done. Switch to Chrome. Not interested in that right now. BellArc Advisor. We're going to download BellArc Advisor free. Download a free copy. We're going to do a save as. PC downloads. I haven't had time to arrange that the way I like. And before I do that, I'm going to go to Ninite. And I would like to get Firefox. That's all I need right now. Open the folder. Give me Firefox. I'm going to save that. So that now I can close. Something else I'm going to do while I'm here, I like to make these where I just click on them. So I'm going to go into the control panel, right click, and I'm going to change this view, large icons, and I want internet options, Lenovo. I'm going to change that later to Google, to google.com, and I'll also tell it my connection under LAN settings, automatically detect. Don't do that, just go. Now I'm going to go to the File Explorer options, and under single click, right now it's double click. I'm changing that to single click. So now everything on the desktop will be a single click. I'm just kind of funny about that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and install Firefox first. It'll be my default browser. Then I'm going to do the BellArc Advisor to interrogate the machine, see what we've got, and then after that, then we'll do the network setup. We know we have a network connection. I'm risking, and this also too I'll turn off later. I don't need that to ask me every time I do something if that's what I want to do. Because once a computer is set up and this installed fairly quickly, is you want to get your security set before you get out and start getting on the internet like I'm doing. The McAfee that's on here is fine. If I keep this, I'll change it over to Kaspersky. I know how it works. I like what it does. And when it doesn't do what I want, I know how to fix it. Okay, now we got the browser installed. Let's double check, make sure it works. And of course the browser, I want to go in and customize it to tell it what search engine I want to use. Right now I'm just making sure it works. It works. Okay, we'll close all that down. Now we're going to go install BellArc Advisor. It's free. Other things we would want to know about this would be like the battery. There's a program we can install for that, tell us what it's doing, to also find out the brightness of the screen, how many nits. Our application we've used in the past to interrogate a monitor works just the same. It'll interrogate. And once we know the manufacturer, then we can do a search on that, and it'll tell us how bright it is. Now, from what I'm using, looking at it right now, it's plenty bright to me. It's probably, my guess would be about the same as the HP Envy. I don't think it's any brighter. Jim, was your Lenovo Yoga bright? Or did you like it the way it was?
Oh, that's funny. We were just talking about that early. It dims itself, and it's been a frustrating thing with me.
Well,
But
it'll dim itself on battery, but does it dim even when you're plugged in?
I think it does, but I'm not sure. It's come up several times, and I have to fumble through there and find where it is, which
Power
I never
settings.
do.
It's in the
And-
power settings.
Well, I think it's personalized let's see,
It's in the power settings.
is it in power settings?
Should be. We'll go and take a look at it here in just a minute.
But it does seem to do it all by itself.
And annoying.
Exactly. I'm going to be curious about what kind of a hard drive that has in it, because they wouldn't tell me. And I went to a Best Buy and looked at the numbers and went back and forth, and this one's a 960 Evo, or at least that's what I think it is based upon my tracing of the numbers at the time.
Yes.
I'll show you it won't.
We'll bump this up. Lenovo Flex 5. We've got a BIOS date of 12/12/17. So this has been sitting on a shelf. Now this is what I like to see. This machine has 16 gigs of RAM in it. The other slot is empty. I could put another 16 gigs of memory in here. Now that's a smart way to build a computer. Too many of them, they'll put 2 8s in there and you got to dump it all to change out. I only got to put another stick now. I'm not planning on it, but if I wanted to, I could. I think 16 gigs of memory is adequate on a desktop and a laptop. If you're going to build a Ryzen or i9, I'd put 32 gigs. 64 gigs or 128 gigs, most of the kind of stuff that we do, business stuff, I don't think most people need it. But the fact that I can do this, I like that. Now, the other thing I'm looking for is the drive. It shows over here that I have an NVMe drive, Samsung. I like that. Now, I can upgrade this and I can change that out. I don't know if the other connector is on there. So the thing I would want to do would be to go to like Crucial and use their wizard and let it interrogate the machine. It's not absolute, but Crucial says they will guarantee their results. So if you buy something and they say it'll work and it doesn't, they'll take it back.
Clarify, you mean to add an additional solid state drive to that? Is that what you're talking about?
Right, if I wanted to add a second drive. For example, let's just go do it right click. Let's go to Crucial. Crucial.com.
You know, there's a YouTube video on my last Lenovo. I had to take the drive out because I had a technician coming. At any rate, there's a YouTube video to show you how to take a Lenovo apart. I don't know about this specific one or that one, but I'm telling you, the older generation, I thought that was cool.
I agree. And there's even some companies that provide the kit to put in your system, but you've got to have the connector.
The connection, right.
Some of the systems don't have the connector, and a good example is this HP Envy. In this configuration from Costco, it's been neutered. They have removed the M.2 socket. Now, that's dumb. That's just dumb, in my opinion. Okay, we're looking at Crucial. We're looking for the, let me find the scanner. There it is. There's two ways, the Crucial Advisor tool or the Crucial scanner. We're going to download the scanner, let it run. It doesn't mean it's going to be 100%. Run it. Let's see what it says. Scan in progress. Because I'm curious if we can add a second drive to this machine. I do not know. You know, you can go look at the specs from the manufacturer, but what the manufacturer says and what this one says could be two different things. Now this says storage SATA 3 6 gigabit. Shows the chipset. Shows maximum memory 16 gig, standard memory 4 gig removable. Slots 1, 1 bank of 1, not to exceed manufacturer supported memory. So there's a 16 gig stick, there's an 8 gig stick. This doesn't say a thing about an M.2. So Crucial says we can put an SSD in here. That tells me then, let's see, it says a 250 and a 500, view more compatible SSD drives. Here's a 1 terabyte. Okay, if that's true, if what they say is true, then that tells me there's another socket. Because remember, this 512 gig drive is an NVMe, which means it's a stick of chewing gum because it's an M.2. Crucial says I can put a regular SSD in here. If that's true, then that means the connector's on the board. Now, if the connector's on the board for an SSD, why didn't they just put another socket in there for a M.2? I don't know. This is not absolute, but this tells me enough to make me want to flip it over, open the back, and see, find out. Now, because we just now have done the unboxing setup and we're getting ready to do the network setup, this question that I'm asking, which to me is a big question, I'll have to spend some time going through tech support and looking at some of the particulars based on this model and serial number to find out if what I want to know is there or not. But I think it's a big deal. And I think manufacturers are remiss in not telling people this stuff. People want to know. I want to know. If I'm going to go buy a laptop and I'm checking on specs number 1, this is information I need to know. And that little card, that's why I brought it. This little card about this laptop from Costco is more explicit in the particulars that I'm interested in than the information on the website. Now, if I look at a Dell at Costco, they'll tell me if it's an NVMe, and they'll always say PCIe, which means the same thing. But it'd be nice if they could be consistent across the board on all of them. That's my point. Okay, now that we've done that, I'll dump that down, close that. I'm going to bring up an Explorer window. Okay, when I click on Network, forget Home Group. When I click on Network, it should pop up with a wizard, and it did. It already shows me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 computers. Now, before I get any more into this, I'm going to go, let me close that just a second. I'm going to go rename this computer. Something that's more particular to the computer. Let's see, that is flag. I do this on a desktop, and I don't even think about the keyboard shortcut. Flag, pause, break. Flag, pause, break. Where is the pause, break key? I don't have a pause, break key. Love it, just love it. The other way to get there is I'll go to Control Panel. Okay. Control Panel, we'll go to System. Where's System? System. Control Panel, System. And that gets me where I want to be. I will go to Advanced System Properties. Let me zoom in on that. And I'm going to go to Computer Name. Okay. Full computer name, Desktop. So I'm going to rename this Lenovo Flex. Lenovo Flex 5. It'll tell me to reboot, which I'll go ahead and gladly do. Lenovo Flex 5. That name means more to me than desktop, whatever.
apply?
Do what?
Punch apply first.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
that's a good point. If I say okay, it will close this box and apply those settings.
It will?
If I just click apply, it will apply it, but that box will still be there. So you got two options. So when I hit OK, a box should pop back and tell me to reboot, and it didn't. That's interesting.
Right.
See there it says Lenovo Flex, that's what I put
So I
in.
have to redo so many things.
Let me zoom back out. Wow, it's always told me to reboot. That didn't. So I'm going to bring that up, flag E. I'm going to click on network. Yeah, see, it still shows the old name. Let me reboot it. It's always told you to reboot. Let's do a restart. First of all, let me double check and see what's going on with updates, because this may be the kiss of death. Your device is at risk because it's out of date. We're going to go to cumulative, awaiting a restart. No, I can't do a restart. If I do, it takes over. So I'm stuck. So I'm going to connect with that computer. I want to see if it sees itself. Folder's empty. Okay, I haven't shared anything yet. So file sharing is turned off. Some computers and devices might not be visible. Click to change. So I'm going to click to change. Turn on network discovery and file sharing. We'll zoom in on that. Turn on network discovery. Okay, that's been set. Now I can get into any one of these computers, and when I share stuff on my private network, that's the way I need to be able to do. Now this one, admin PC, whoever this is, wants me to enter credentials, a password. I'm not sure who that is. Oh, I know who that is. That's Greg, sorry. Yeah, that's our private network. So anyway, let me zoom back out. So now I'm going to bring up that Explorer window again. I'm going to go to this PC. I'm going to click on the C drive. I'm going to click on users, and I'm going to go to public, right click, which would be the same thing as if I had public, or click on share up here at the top, advanced sharing options. This is the way to get there, but it doesn't give you what I want. So I'm going to go share, right click on public, properties. I'm going to go to sharing. Now, right now it says public is not shared. If I just click on share and I put in everyone and set the properties, it'll share, but it may not show, and I'm taking the default. So what I'm going to do is go to advanced sharing, share this folder, and I can say public. I want to do permissions everyone so that everyone has full control. No one's on the network but me, and if I do something on one computer and I need that file on another one, I need to be able to do this. And this is also important if you're networking, and remember, we're IP4, not IP6. If you're networking with a printer, this is important. So this is all basic stuff. So I'm going to say okay, I've got everyone up there. This is wide open. I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to close.
How did you get in there to get to those settings?
Can you get to
How did you get into that
setting?
box again?
Okay, what I did was Windows flag E for Explorer. I clicked over to the left here on this PC. And from this PC, I went to the C drive. And from the C drive, I clicked on users.
Mm-hmm.
And then I right-clicked on the public folder, and I said properties.
Okay.
And from properties, I clicked on the second tab for sharing. I didn't click on the top share, I did the advanced sharing for custom permissions. The reason for this, if a computer cannot see itself, it's not that big a deal. But if I do a custom, or in the advanced sharing, if I do a custom share under advanced sharing, it'll see itself. And that's where you hit it to force it to make it. I don't know
That's
what,
where you get,
that's the way you force it and make it show up on the network.
okay, why did you do public
I could do just public.
rather than doing
Advanced?
Your name, or the name of the computer.
Okay, the reason I changed the name of the computer, because I wanted something that to me would be easy to know what computer that was. If I'm on a network,
No, I understand that, but you chose, Oh.
I changed the name, but I haven't rebooted.
But
If I reboot, Windows is going to take over and do updates.
okay,
The reason I changed the name was to keep it simple. If you take networking to the next step, which is sharing files is one thing, but sharing a printer is another. If you have a multifunction printer, it's easier to look at a multifunction printer when you see the list of computers, if you know by name what that computer is. So I changed the name of this computer to be something to be easily seen by that printer.
but what is the name of the computer?
I changed it to Lenovo Flex 5. But it won't show up until I reboot.
Yes, but you chose, before you went into sharing,
Yes.
you chose public as a user. Why did you do that instead of choosing Lenovo?
Okay, you always want to share the public folder. I clicked on this PC.
Why, I guess is the question.
Okay, when you're on this PC.
Yeah, right, you go to
and you go to the
users.
C drive, you've got users.
Right.
The users that you share is the public users.
You don't share yourself?
No. No. You can, but you don't. By default, you share the public.
I've always shared myself.
Well,
Or desktop or laptop.
you can, but it's a little bit of a security issue.
In what sense? I guess I didn't understand that.
You want to answer that, Robert?
You two are operating at a level above anything I'm familiar with. It would never occur to me to share something called public or myself. I only share disk drives. What are the entities that you're actually talking about sharing, and what's the consequence of any of them? What is public?
Yeah.
Is there anything in public?
Well,
I mean, I would never share to public.
Public is the public folders where you have your public documents, public downloads, public music.
Well, why would you ever have any of those?
Yeah, why
That's my
would you? I
question.
don't have any of those.
That's the way sharing's been done on computers for quite a while. Since, I think, Windows 7, I think it was Windows Vista or Windows 7. Used to be this was, instead of being users, what do we used to call it? Something settings. And under settings then you had, but it's basically the same thing, under users. Under users you have your username and you have your public. Typically you don't share your username. You can. Typically you share the public. But
If you shared username, does that mean that anything that this user has created would be shared? Is that what that means?
it would be shared if I allow it.
Yeah.
Because the way I set the properties is for my network to be accessible totally by me, where I have complete access to those files, where I can read those files and I can write to those files, and I can also delete those files, and I can move those files.
Well, I'm coming from something of a caveman orientation here. When I was using Windows 2000, I got some other computer that offered me a home group. And with the home group, I could not see my Windows 2000 computers. And so at that point, I abandoned home group and anything that Microsoft wanted to do with networks. So now I only do what I want to do with networks. And you're looking at something there that I don't understand. And I guess since I wouldn't do it, I probably should just sit down and shut up.
The reason I use the network rather than the home group is that I can't get to my
I'm not doing anything.
CDs, to my CD drives in the network.
I'm not doing anything with home group. Stay out of home
You're
group.
not. You are in network then.
No, I'm not. I'm not in home group.
No, but I said, but you're in network, not in home group. Okay, good.
I've done home group and I don't like it.
I don't either.
There's one advantage to it. If you create a home group and there's a network printer there, it will automatically say, hey, there's a printer here. You want me to install the driver? You can say, sure. It's easy for that fact, but I don't care for it. Again, there's a couple of videos up about the multifunction printer. I did an unboxing and setup, and I did a network print setup. The third video I'm going to do about that is about the scanner, and it's very involved. And because of what you can do that is so powerful with that scanner, that's why I'm taking this from this step to that step. Because when you network your computers, those files from that scanner will go to that computer if you choose to, but it's going to put them in the public shares. So whatever you've shared, that's where it's going to go. And that's typically public. But you don't have to share the public if you don't want to. But whatever you share, that's where that stuff will go.
Your scans.
Right. You can have the scanner, and that's another reason the name has to be correct. When I say correct, the name needs to be something simple you recognize. You can share, I believe, up to 12 computers with one printer, and you can scroll through the list on the computer, and when the driver's installed, it'll show that computer on the panel. And you can say, I want to send whatever's on this scanner to that computer, and it'll do it for right there from the printer, whether you're next to the printer or not. Distance doesn't matter. And by the same token, you can access that printer from the computer. So it's either way. Say I want to do something from the computer to the printer, you can, or if you want to do it from the printer to the computer, you can. There's 3 different steps, 3 different ways to do it. And I'm going to do a third video that outlines that, and part of this is doing this to keep it simple. Okay. Keep the name something simple you recognize so that each computer is unique, and get your shares set up so once you have your files set up, when you're doing one of those kind of printers, a multifunction printer, you can do your fax, you can do your scan, and you can do your print.
Okay.
So anyway, back to the public. This is typically where stuff is done. Most people say you shouldn't save stuff to a laptop, you should save it to a thumb drive. I agree. Well, I save stuff to the public because I take it off of one computer and I move it to another computer. But I don't ever share Gil Boyd. I don't ever share the account that I'm logged in through. So I'm going back to public. I'm going to go down to properties. I'm going to go back up here to the tab for sharing. And I'm not going to do, it says shared, I'm not going to do the simple share, but I use the advanced share. And the reason for the advanced share, I can change the name. The default name is public. If I say unshare it, and then we're going to change the name, let me take it off. I'll show you what I mean. So I'll say okay, unshare it. I'll go back to share. And I'm going to say let's share it. And if you notice there's no scroll bar here to see what's going on, I can change that name to anything I want. And that's what will be seen. If I want to call this Flex, Flex 5, set it, simultaneous users 20, permissions, full control, because I want to be able to change, read, write, and do everything. And it's the everyone group you need. And I'm going to say okay. Now that is going to be shared on the network. So if I go look at this on another computer, let's look at this from the laptop over here. Control E. Let's go over here to the network. And it shows that computer. See, I don't have access to it yet. I can't see it because we've got to go to the next step. So I'm going to go back over to this computer. I'm going to right-click E. I'm going to go to the network, and I see myself, which is desktop right here, and I can see that folder Flex 5 because that's what I set it to be. I'm going to show you some documentation that says when you get a computer and you have a clean install of Windows, when that computer's running, you've got 15 days to do this networking. If you don't do it within 15 days, this service gets uninstalled. I've read the documentation, I don't believe it, but I wanted to find out for myself, and I'm seeing it today and it's working.
Okay.
There is a service that's been deprecated in favor of the other version of the service, which is the more current version. But there's two components to it. There's the server option and the client side part of it. And the client side that is installed by default gets uninstalled in 15 days. That was all new to me. I'd never heard that before. And I don't fully believe it, but I'll show you the link. I've got a link up on Build or Buy that goes right into Microsoft's site. Found it because of somebody else. I found it while I was doing the BitDefender stuff. You know, I always say information never follows a straight line. It does not. It comes around. And searching for that information, I would have never found it in a million years. So anyway, there's that folder Flex Fly. I can access myself. That's the public documents. And that's the way it's seen on the network because I gave it a custom name. But what I can't do is from the other computer access that folder yet. We've got to go the next step. So I'm going to back out of this, close that for just a minute, down here on the bottom. We're going to go down here to network. Right down here, network access. Network internet settings. And sometimes to me this is like a dog and pony show. I'm going to click on Ethernet. And here's something else I didn't realize. I have an Ethernet connection. If I click on Network Connected, right here, public and private, I'm going to back that up. Click on your Ethernet or your Wi-Fi, and if I had a Wi-Fi connection, it would be the same as the Ethernet. Click on the network. See where it says Network Connected? I click on that, it takes me to this property sheet for public and private. You know the thing that comes up on the right side of the screen? Where it asks you public or private in blue? Remember that? Okay. When the computer first had network access, there was a bar on the right-hand side of the screen. Excuse me for walking in front of the camera. And there was two questions I could answer. Yes or no. Remember that? Okay, that's what this is. When you miss that, here's how you get to it. This used to be in a different place. It's another one of those things Microsoft changed. Thank you, Microsoft. Robert, we're not finished yet, but yes. Turn it on. Turn it on. You're good.
I can see that your situation is certainly more sophisticated than mine. You've got computers here.
This is simple.
Okay, but still, you have computers here.
Yep.
And it's possible that at least one of those is actually your personal computer. And you would have things on it that you don't want people in this audience to be able to see. So given, it may not be a true assumption, but given that assumption that that's who you are right now, then the concept of public makes sense. But if you don't do that, if your computer is only used, say, in the house by people in the family and everybody is trusted, and if you go on vacation, you take a laptop with you, then you don't share anything with the public.
Right.
So the whole idea of having something called public and kept public and whatever is, I just can't relate to that. Can you give me some idea of why that's useful? Unless you're in your situation where you've got your personal stuff over there because you brought your computer here.
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
Let's go back to that computer. Under network, it says network profile. Under private, which is what I've selected, it says for a network you trust, such as at home or work, your PC is discoverable and can be used for file and print sharing if you set it up. So that's what I'm showing you, this step, before we take the next step to set up a network printer. Now, if I set that to public, your PC is hidden from other devices on the network and can't be used for file and printer sharing. I want to do file and printer sharing because I'm showing you what needs to be done if you're going to have a network printer. So that's one part. I'm going to back up from that. Whoop. Zoom back out, lose my place. Okay, I'm going to close that down and start over. Down here at the bottom, network access. Click on that. Network and internet settings. Back to this. You're connected. I'm on Ethernet. I don't need to change the adapter options. I want to change advanced sharing options. Because even though I can see that computer, if we look at this HP computer, I can see the computers on the network, and there are 4 right now. There's more than that. I can see that computer, which is the Lenovo, which even though I've changed the name, it won't show up till I reboot, but I'm not rebooting because the updates will take over. But if I click on it, I can't get into it. And I can't get into it because I haven't set the properties. So I'm getting ready to do that. Back over to the Lenovo Flex 5. Change advanced sharing options. Now, what I'm going to do is to open this up so I can network file and printer sharing. This is my local network. This is my private network that's public. Sounds counterintuitive. Now, private. Turn on network discovery. Turn on automatic discovery of network connected devices. I could turn it off. File and printer sharing. Turn on file and printer sharing. When file and printer sharing is on, files and printers that you have shared from this computer can be accessed by people on the network. And think of the printer as a device like another computer. Because if you don't have this set up, setting up a printer that can scan, you won't be able to scan documents to that computer. Robert?
Gil, do you recall when, at what operating system it became necessary to make this kind of choice?
Windows 2000.
Well, I've never had to make this kind of choice. I'm in Windows 7, and I just, turn the computers on and share, tell them to share, period. And there's a network computer on there that gets assigned a URL or IP address by the router, and we can all see it. And I never go through that. So I don't understand, why you have to do it and I don't have to do it.
If it doesn't work for you, these are the things you've got to go through to make it work.
Well, it's been working for a decade.
I'm glad it's working for you. Yes, Jack? Where's the mic?
Right here. Right hand.
There we go. Thank you.
I think when you install your operating system, there's a cover question that says, do you want to network your yada, yada, yada? And if you answer yes,
it's that bar on the
by
right.
default clicks all these radio buttons.
It's that bar on the far right.
Yeah.
It pops up when it sees a network connection. That comes up on the screen, and you say yes or no. Do you want to be discoverable on the network?
So Robert and I, when we installed our system, said yes.
Right. Now, if everything's working correctly, you're good to go. But if you've got a problem, you've got to go through this and figure out where the problem is. And the last thing we're going to look at is when it asks for the passwords. For example, when I try to hit on Greg's computer, that dialog pops up because he's got it set telling me to ask for a password. And when we used to do that in Windows 2000, that was the only way to do it. And when we first started in Windows 7, we had to figure out the new way.
And when you do that, when you use that system that way, isn't there a checkbox for save my credentials?
Yes.
And then you only have to do it once?
Yes, as long as it remembers it.
As long as it stays right, yeah.
I've had them forget them before, too. Okay, well, again, the purpose of this is I'm going to show another video with that printer. I've done an unboxing and setup, and I've had people say, man, I got that printer. I don't know what to do with it. I followed your instructions 1, 2, 3, and it works. I think that is so cool. Then the second video I did was the network print setup. I went from a USB connection to a network connection because I want to make sure the printer was functional. And the third one is going to be just about the scanner. And I'm going to take 4 computers and use the driver in 4 different states to show if you install the driver, this is what you get. If you install the application, this is what you get. The printer will talk one way, but it won't talk the other way unless you have the application. And then you still got another IP address you go to get into to configure it. It's amazing. But that little printer that's like, I don't know, a couple $100, it does what some of the big Minolta printers does. I'm floored by it.
You punch up on the printer panel, I want to scan.
Yes.
And then you choose which computer you want to scan to.
Yes.
And then you hit OK or print
Yes.
or whatever, and away it goes.
Or if you want to tell it to send it to an email address, you can punch it up on the panel, you put an email address into it, it remembers it, and you can either pick a computer or you can pick an email address, and it'll send it to that email address.
Oh, I'll have to try that. I haven't.
It's very wicked.
I always scan to the computer and then send it as an attachment, so.
Well,
Yeah.
it took me a little while to figure that out because the way they arrange information. For example, when you set up a mail server or you set up an email address, there's specific information that's put in specific places, very 1, 2, 3. On the printer, that information is not all where it's supposed to be. They've got it in some other places. And I had to figure out what they were saying by what they wanted, what they needed to do. That's why I had to configure an email address for the printer to make sure that worked, and that's what I do.
The email address, scanning directly to an email address, seems like it will only go to Outlook. Have you been able to get it to go to Gmail or something like that?
Well,
And how do you do that? I know we're
when I do
moving
this,
away here.
when I do this on this printer, we're kind of sidetracking, but it's relevant. It's important to know that you're only going to do this on IP4. It will not work on IP6. And it's also important to know your mail server settings. This works with POP3. It doesn't. I'm not sure it'll work with IMAP, but
That's
it
what I'm
might.
afraid of. I don't think it works with IMAP.
But it might. But I know it has to have POP3. Now, with your POP3, you've got to know what your mail server settings are. You've got to know what your POP3 address is, whatever that port is that you use, and not the default. You've also got to know what the SMTP is, because you're not only going to be able to send, but also be able to receive. Once you got all that figured out, and once you put the correct information in the right place, it's beautiful. It is seamless. But it took me, and I know what I'm doing, it took me a long time to figure out what they were asking.
Yeah, I've tried to make it work for IMAP. I can't seem to get it to work for IMAP.
It would work for Gmail if you got it set up for POP3, but you got to know the email address you're using, and you got to know the mail server settings, and they've got to be in the right place.
No, it's
that's
set
why I
up
said
for-
I configured an email address just for the printer. So if a fax comes in off the phone line, I can tell it to automatically send that to an email address, which means it goes out to the email address that the printer has to send it to another email address.
That's pretty cool.
It's very cool. I'm going to do a video of it,
Yeah, I would like to see that.
but it's to set up 4 computers tight like this. It's going to be a complicated video that I need to probably take 2 or 3 hours to shoot, and then edit it down to like 17 minutes. So I've had to make it work, which I did. The first part of it was a breeze. If you have, for example, I'll finish this in a second. I'm going to come back to it, but I'll show you.
Well, let's just save it for another time because you're almost out of time.
Let me show you on this computer right here. This computer would be the no, I'll do it from here. I'll do it from here because this one's got it. What I'm going to do is look at, from the Lenovo Flex, I'm going to look at the HP Envy, which is the i7-8550. And when I go to this, I have these printer drivers installed. There's 2 parts to the printer. 1, the printer driver, and 2, the printer application. Normally, when I install a printer driver on a computer, I share that printer driver. This is the first level of functionality. This is 1 part of 3 parts. If I install the application, then I have part 2 of that functionality. Part 3 is an IP address that I get access to the printer from. Now, what I have done so far, because I wanted to figure this out, when I install the application, let me go back to this computer. I think the driver's here. Yes. Okay. Canon MF Network Scanner Selector. When I right-click on this, bring up configuration. This sees this printer according to the MAC address. Now, let me zoom in on that. When you set up a network with a router, we've looked at 2 routers. We've looked at the Netgear, we've looked at the ASUS. And I got to tell you, Ray's not here. I wish he hadn't have brought that ASUS router. We didn't stay focused and we didn't get into the meat of it because we got off on other stuff. But now that I've seen that router, I got to have one. I thought it was crazy spending $300 on a router, but that router is wicked. What that router can do with a default, the first thing we needed to have done was to have updated the firmware. But to find a router that's stock without going to something like the MikroTik, or to go to a router that requires DDWRT for a custom firmware, of which they are working on a beta version for that particular router now. That router works out of the box for most people with a simple interface that does some amazing things. And to be able to do what it could do, properly configured. In other words, we did an unboxing and setup we didn't finish. What would have been nice is if we could have spent some time with the configuration for the wireless, because there's things you need to go through 1, 2, 3, but as we keep doing here, answering other questions, we get off on other stuff, we don't get finished. So I'm telling you about this because I'm going to do one on Ray's router and go through the setup and configuration. The optimization is what makes that thing so amazing. Like setting up the wireless. You want to take it from the default to, I need some other information in front of me to talk about this properly, but to get it where the radios are not conflicting with other devices, to get the bandwidth set up where you maximize that throughput. There's several things you can do that are real easy, 1, 2, 3 from the interface that just, I thought spending $200 on a router was crazy, and I thought $300, no way. I can't wait till mine gets here. That looked like a dead bug upside down. I got to have one. Now, you set up the IP addresses, you reserve the IP addresses. It's important to do that in the router because what I'm showing you right here with this computer, the Canon MF240, I have had this I've had this printer on 2 different routers because the computer, and this is part of the driver, which is part 2, because the computer follows the printer according to the MAC address, it doesn't care about the router because it doesn't care about the IP address. I've hardwired one IP address into one router, and I've hardwired a different IP address into a different router. This follows the MAC address, so it follows that wherever we go. So if I, on this computer, share the driver, which is the way I used to do things, it's not necessary to do that because you want to install the driver for the computer, period. That's step 1. If I do this, I can pull that driver over so a computer could print. But step 2 is installing the software. And that allows me to not only communicate from the computer to the printer, but when the driver, that gives me the driver, but when the software is installed, I can then communicate from the printer to the computer. Now, there's an IP address you get into from the printer. But there's 2 different, there's one IP address, but there's 2 different, I don't want to say URLs, there's 2 different property sheets you want to get to. One you can find by default and it's easy. You do it from here. The other, you've got to know what it is. So you can install the driver from the CD or you can install the driver from the download. If you install it from the driver from the download, you've got to read the manual to know what that other URL is, or you'll never find it. If you do it from the CD, there's a menu that says, do this, number 1, do this, number 2. On this HP Envy, it has a laptop. I can use the CD. On this Lenovo Flex, there is no CD, So I could not use the driver disk that way. I'd have to do the download. So you've got to have the PDF file, because without that other piece of information, you're like, what am I missing? That's what I'm going to show in the video with 4 different computers. So you can see what the computer sees, what the printer sees, and to the degree they see each other based on driver, based on application. So everything I'm trying to show you is so that you do 1, 2, 3, and by doing everything 1, 2, 3, everything will work. And if something doesn't work, you know what it is. So let's get back over here. We're going to go back to the properties, and I'm going to bring this back up because we've gotten way off target. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom, network. I'll zoom in on that. Click on it. Network internet settings. We'll go to that. Now over here we're going to go to Ethernet. Change advanced sharing options. Okay. Now we've got 3 different settings, 3 different areas in here we're going to look at. We've got the private. We've got the private, we've got the guest public, and all networks. Turn on network discovery, and for home group, allow Windows to manage home group connection, fine, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go down to the second part. Network discovery, guest or public. Notice that says guest or public. You have the default account, which is the user, which is an admin account. It's not the admin account, but it is a admin account. Then you have guest or public. Guest or public, which is what we had with the files we were sharing. There's a hierarchical structure you do with Windows the way this works, and if you follow it, you do this stuff and it'll work. Now right now, network discovery is off for guest or public. And I'm going to go down to all networks. The very last thing in this list, to make this work, because I'm doing this for a printer, I'm going to turn off password protected sharing. Now, if I set that in the printer and keep it, fine, but I'm doing this on a private network. So I'm going to save changes. Now what I want to know is, can this computer get access to that computer? So let me go back over here and close that down. And can I get in? I'm in. And Windows cannot access. Windows can't access. I can see that because I've got into the first level. Now, if I want to go further, I'm going to go back over here to this computer. I'm going to go to change advanced sharing options. I'm going to go to part 2 where it says guest or public. As soon as it's finished, okay, it populated. Guest or public. Turn on. Now, if I were to go to the next part without saving changes, it would not save it. Okay, now let's go back over here. Now, can I get into that? Still can't get into it. Got to pull that mic off. Keep bumping on that. Change advanced sharing options. Okay, all networks. We're not streaming. Right here, public folder sharing. When public folder sharing is on, people on the network, including home group members, can access files in the public folders. All networks, public folders. Right now, that's off. I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to save changes. And with this area, there's no apply OK button. It's, you set it, you say OK, the dialog box goes away. Now then, can I get into this computer? Lo and behold, I'm into that computer. This step is important if you're going to set up a network printer, because you want the printer to be able to have access to that computer. If you don't do this, that computer, you'll get an error and you won't know what's going on. So everything is 1, 2, 3. If you can get the computers to talk, then you can go to the next level and get the printer to talk. It's one thing to have the computer talk to the printer. It's a whole other thing to have the printer talk to the computer.
My printer talks to my computers just fine, but they won't talk to each other.
The computers won't talk to each other?
Right. When I set things up, it was fine. It was, and slowly they all disappeared from the
Microsoft,
from the network.
everything I just showed you, every time Windows updates, Microsoft resets all that. Yes. Yes. Every time.
Well, wouldn't the printer have fallen off the net also?
The printer's just printing. Are you scanning?
Well, no, I scan from the printer panel to all of my computers.
I'm surprised that's still working.
Yeah, my printer still works.
Your printer still worked. Well, having the printer talk to, having
I'll go back in and check those, but I think I've done it.
well, having the printer, having the computer talk to the printer, that's easy. But having the printer talk to the computer, that's a little bit more work. And if yours is still working, I'm surprised.
I don't remember having that much of a problem setting it up. I just followed the instructions for the printer installation, and I was able to scan from the little LED panel on the printer, and I can send it to any one of my computers.
Well, there's a three-step process. It'll see the computer, but you've got to have the share set to let it. You can scan to the computer, you can scan to an email address, and depending on how it sees it, you've got to have the application and the driver installed.
Yeah, I've never done the scan to an email. I don't know if it's not there on my system or if I just haven't paid any attention to it.
You may not have paid any attention to it because it's a little bit of work to get it. It took me 10 hours to figure it out.
I'll call you.
Well, like I said, I knew what had to be, and I kept doing it, and it wasn't working. So that's when I set up the email address to double check it. And that's when I realized some of the settings. If one thing is wrong, everything's wrong. And that's what was so annoying. But once I had it working, I was like, this is cool. I got to do a video on this. But it's an amazing thing to think that we can do that with a desktop printer. So anyway, I've showed you how to do this, and the point of this, because now I want to go, let me zoom back out, and I want to show you some documentation that deals with this. I'm going to go to Builder By, and there's going to be a page up on Builder By for this date, which will be 4/4, so this can be archived later. I've got some stuff up about battery, hardware info, monitor, Bella Arc, core temp, this laptop, all that stuff's up there. Even the counts going from a local account to a network account. That reminds me, have you guys seen the dialog box pop up lately that says Microsoft Store? Go to the Microsoft Store. Have y'all been seeing that? That's a precursor to the next update coming out because they're trying to get you to do that. But when you do that, if you ever go to that Microsoft Store, you're locked into an online account. Then you have to change it if you want it back to an offline account. So be aware of that. Now, that next update, that spring update, is going to start happening anywhere from now till next month. Hook or crook, whether we want it or not. Benefits, I think our biggest benefit is we will be able to get our computer back sooner than later. But remember, when those updates apply, let it occur. And also, from what Sue Osselin had said, Microsoft has changed the way the updates occur now. It keeps the computer awake. In the past, if the computer went asleep, no updates. It'll keep the computer awake. Thanks for being with us, Mel. I got you. So what I wanted to share with you were these links. Number 12 and number 13, this is supported Microsoft.com. SMB1 is not installed by default in Windows 10 1709. How to detect, enable, and disable SMB1, SMB2, SMB3. Now, what's curious, and I'm not sure which one of these is which, I'm going to go down to number 13. How to detect and enable. And I didn't know this was going on. Okay, SMB is the server message block. And I'm going to go down to where it applies to Windows 10. Okay, Windows 10, SMB. Okay, this is not the one. SMB1 has been deprecated. SMB1 apparently is what's required to do what we've just done. So I'm going to go over here to number 12. Hold down the control key, click enter. Yeah, this is the one. SMB1 is not installed by default in Windows 10 Fall Critters Update, but Windows 10 Fall Critters Update in Windows Server 1709, SMB, the server message block, version 1, is no longer installed by default. It was superseded by SMB2. Microsoft has deprecated SMB1. Okay, SMB1 has both client and server sub-features that can be uninstalled separately. I'm looking for the relevance to Windows 10. Okay, Windows 10, Windows Pro no longer contain the SMB1 server by default after a clean installation. Windows 10, Windows 10 Home Pro still contain the SMB1 client, the client by default after a clean installation. If the SMB1 client is not used for 15 days in total, excluding the computer being turned off, it automatically uninstalls itself. What that means is this network neighborhood, computer's not seen if this isn't installed. And I didn't know that. I learned this the hard way. I learned this roundabout when I was trying to figure out what McAfee was doing with what I showed you guys last week. You remember the network wouldn't show up? Well, this is what I know so far. I've done it on this laptop and we did it immediately, and that's what I want to do it with this Lenovo Flex. There's something to that. Now keep in mind, no matter how you set your network, every time Windows updates, Microsoft changes it back to the default, which blows it out. You have to go back and reset it. And if your stuff still works, I'd like to know your secret. But that's annoying. So anyway, that's what we got. We did a setup unboxing and a network setup of that printer. And I appreciate the application that, thanks for being with us. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Remember, Ray's going to be building that, he's going to build a 9.9 next week. So hopefully we'll see you then. So has anybody got any questions? Feel like you got your money's worth? I appreciate you guys coming. So thanks for joining us. Thumbs up would be appreciated. For those that are watching, we look forward to seeing you next week. We think we're going to build a 9.9 if Ray's got his parts. I'll give him a call in a couple of days and find out. Some of the stuff was coming Tuesday, some of it was coming today, Wednesday, and some of the stuff is supposed to be coming tomorrow. He should have everything. So, look forward to seeing you next week.